Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Today, joining me is actually no one. John couldn't join me today, sadly. I'm going to be doing a solo episode, so it's going to be a rather short episode, but we still wanted to preview the Steelers vs. Bears. So let's jump right into it. We'll start with some NFL news. The Ezekiel Elliott suspension could be enforced as soon as Week 5. He is guaranteed to play Week 3 and 4, but the NFL might be able to enforce it right after Week 4. And I think we've beaten this dead horse enough. It's ridiculous that he's even being suspended in the first place. And the NFL is trying to just enforce their power by making sure it happens this year. So that's kind of rough. Then in Steelers news, Bud Dupree has been fined 12.5K for a celebration against the Vikings last week. While the NFL has been more lenient on celebrations this year, the 2 pump rule is still in effect, and he did 4 pumps, so he got a fine for that. But that's really it for news. There wasn't a lot happening in the NFL this week, so moving on to the injury report. Tackle Marcus Gilbert with hamstring and illness is actually out, as well as TJ Watt out. They're going to be missed this weekend, but the Steelers will still find a way to make it work without them. Then questionable is Gerald Hawkins with a knee injury, and Stephon Tuitt with a biceps injury. Then for the Bears, linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski, I think it said, is out with a chest injury. Josh Sinton is doubtful with a rib injury, and Tom Compton, an offensive lineman, is questionable with a hip injury. But it should be a good matchup regardless, so let me preview the offense for you guys. On paper, this game should be pretty easy for all the Killer Bees. Almost all of them having a favorable matchup, with Bell probably having the hardest matchup here of all of them, only because of Akeem Hicks on the defensive line and the combination of Danny Trevathan, Jarrell Freeman, and Leonard Floyd at linebacker. But regardless, this should be a game that he should prosper in anyway. Where the team might struggle, however, is to get tight ends involved. If you couldn't tell from the 3 linebackers I just gave, that's their strong point on this defense. They will give the Steelers tight ends quite a run for their money. However, the Bears' secondary should be torn apart anyway, so it won't really matter. Don't be surprised if 2 receivers go over 100 yards in this game, or Ben throws 4 or more touchdowns here, because this team's secondary is bottom 10 in my league, in my opinion. Then, even without Marcus Gilbert, I know Chris Hubbard will step up in his position just as he has before, and this line should flourish just as they have. That's it for offense. Moving on to defense. It's honestly really depressing to not have TJ Watt for this game, because he has just been so much fun to watch. However, Chicolo has been performing great when he gets the playing time, and we assume it will be him getting most, if not all, of Watt's reps. Even without Watt, the Steelers still have a very favorable matchup here regardless. The Buccaneers nearly shut out this unit last week, and personally, I believe the Steelers' defense is just as good, if not better. The secondary should really prosper here as they go against former teammate Marcus Wheaton and Kendall Wright. Those were the only 2 wide receivers really worth mentioning. They were the best wide receivers they had, and the other guys were just, it was really rough out there. Uh, it's just a position that the Bears are pretty weak in, to say the least. The secondary should also prosper since Glennon is the quarterback slinging the ball, so expect maybe a pick or 2 in this game. Pass rush should also have a good game here, especially with Josh Sinton doubtful for this game. That leaves Kyle Long and Cody Whitehair as the only really good linemen starting. The defense will have its main struggle here with the Bears running backs, Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. Jordan Howard hasn't been quite as good as he was last year yet, but he's been injured, and Tariq Cohen has looked really good stepping in to take some of his reps. So the linebackers and defensive line are really going to have to play well to contain this Bears run game. Finally, wrapping up with the special teams, there's not really much to mention here. I'm really just hoping for Matakevich to do something spectacular for the 3rd week in a row so we can keep talking about him. I just enjoy that we have a special teamer that's really flourishing this year. So, other than that, I can't say the Bears' punt and kick returner is exactly scary, and the Steelers special team will have any sort of hard time. It should just be a standard game for the special teams. Nothing to say about Barry, nothing to say about Boswell, Canada. You never have to say anything about long snappers. So, moving on to the keys of the game. One of the biggest ones for me is getting Bell going early. I think the Bears are going to try and put double coverage on Antonio Brown as much as possible. And what would make it hard for them is if the Steelers can get a nice 1-2 punch going with Brown in the air and Bell on the ground. If the Steelers can stay two-dimensional all game, the offense should breeze past this. For the defensive side, the defense has to contain yards after the catch. Specifically from the Bears running backs, they are dangerous in open field. And while so far this season, Steelers have been pretty good at tackling compared to last year, these running backs are still shifty. So if the defense can stop them from getting crazy amounts of yards after the catch, the defense will overpower the Bears' offense quite easily. Now, moving on to my X factors, I'm going to start with the offensive side. And it might be a surprise to some people. Some people might realize why immediately. My offensive X factor is Ben Roethlisberger. Like I said, this may seem odd, but statistics say otherwise. This is a game on the road against a team under .500, which in the past has given Roethlisberger a lot of troubles. He needs to break the narrative of losing to subpar teams and come out here playing at the Steelers level and not playing down to the opponent here. And I'm not saying that always in the past it's been on Roethlisberger, but he almost always struggles in this kind of situation, and that tends to make the rest of the team do worse, at least on offense. If he comes out like he has in the past in games like this, that may keep the Bears in it, and even enough to win, possibly. For the defensive side, though, I have Anthony Chickillo. Chickillo's been on fire so far this season. I can't say it enough how much I've appreciated what he's done so far. And now he's going into this game as a starter by injury again. If he can keep playing like he has, the team won't have to miss TJ Watt much, making him an easy X factor for defense. So now I'm going to go into bold predictions really quick, and that's first one is going to be 5 sacks for this unit. Cameron Hayward with 2, Bud Dupree with 1, Shazier with 1, and Mike Hilton with 1 off a cornerback blitz. Then number 2, in addition to the 5 sacks, the defense will cause 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles and an interception. 1 fumble will be caused by Mike Mitchell, the other by Shazier, and Chickillo is going to have the interception there. So moving on to final score, you might have noticed I didn't say any bold prediction about the offense. Well, it's a surprise. I have the Bears winning 20-17. I think the offense has a really bad day and keeps the narrative up against teams under .500 on the road. It's just very, it's just not come to an end. Every year we think it will end. The team will stop losing to these bad, quote, teams, and it just doesn't happen. So I'm thinking here, just like week 3 of last season, the Steelers are going to lose to a team they were heavily favored in, and I think it's going to be because of the offense. But right before I get around to the league pick'em, I'm gonna pick the rest of the games for the rest of the week. John actually gave me his, so I will be mentioning his. But I want to make a quick mention that John will be posting on Twitter his final score prediction, probably some bold prediction, and maybe talking about some more from the podcast that he got to miss. So make sure to follow us on Twitter. But okay, right into the league pick'em. We both got Thursday night at the Rams wrong. It's actually now Saturday, but we both got it wrong because the Rams just really wanted to make it a close game at the end. The Rams were winning it quite handily, actually, and then they let the 49ers come back. But for Steelers at Bears, John went with the Bears plus 7.5. I went with the Bears winning outright, sticking with my final score prediction. Ravens at Jaguars is next. John has the Ravens covering. I have the Jaguars plus 4. I think the loss of Brandon Williams is really going to hurt the Ravens against Leonard Fournette. Then is Broncos at Bills. The Denver Broncos are minus 3. John has the Broncos covering. I also have the Broncos covering. Next up is Saints at Panthers. We both have an upset here, which was kind of surprising. We both have the Saints winning outright. The Carolina Panthers are favored minus 6. We both think the Saints can win it out here. This is also going to be on Twitter because John just forgot to do this game specifically. But Falcons at Lions The Atlanta Falcons are favored by 3. I have the Falcons covering here. Uh, Next game is Browns at Colts. The Cleveland Browns are favored by a point and a half. John has the Colts plus the point and a half. I have Cleveland covering the spread. I think the Colts are a really bad team. I think they might be the worst or second worst in the league at the moment. So, easy pick for me. Uh, also, on Twitter, the Buccaneers and at Vikings. It has no line yet, only because the Sam Bradford possibly being out was only decided later on Friday. So they didn't have a line yet. We will have it on Twitter uh, as soon as possible. Probably right after this podcast goes up or so. So just be on the lookout for that. Texans at Patriots. The New England Patriots are favored by 13 points. We both have the Texans plus 13. I think we both believe that the Texans defense is is probably the stronger part of that team, so we think that they'll keep it closer. Uh, Dolphins at Jets. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 6 points. John has the Dolphins covering, and I also have the Dolphins covering. The Jets are just really bad. Giants at Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 6. We both have the Eagles covering. The Giants have actually been a very disappointing team this season, so I think it's an easy pick. But traditionally, that game could be a throw-up because it's divisional. Seahawks at Titans. Titans are favored by 3. John has the Titans covering. I have Seattle winning outright. I know I've spoken a lot of smack talk about Seattle and how they're overrated, but I still think that their defense could hold over the Tennessee Titans offense, especially with DeMarco Murray probably out or possibly out for that game. Moving on to Bengals at Packers. Green Bay Packers are favored by 9. We both have Packers covering. I think the Bengals are also one of the worst teams in the league, probably top 5, definitely top 10. So, Chiefs at Chargers. We both picked the Chargers to upset, but I was honestly very surprised to see that the Chiefs were only favored by 3. I get it's a divisional game and the Chargers have came in and won games like this, but I don't know. I just thought that was crazy, especially with how good the Chiefs have been doing. But we both have the Chargers winning, so I guess a lot of other people believe that too. Next up is Raiders at Redskins. The Oakland Raiders are favored by 3. We both have the Raiders covering. I think the Redskins are very overrated. I think the Redskins are overrated because the Rams were overrated last week. And when they beat the Rams, like that was a big deal to people. I don't think the Redskins are that good at all. So I think the Oakland Raiders are the real deal and the real deal. I'm sorry. And the Redskins are just pretenders. But final game, Cowboys at Cardinals. Cowboys are favored by 3. I have the Cowboys covering, and so does John. So that should be it for today's podcast. I think we got into everything. So just to wrap it up, if you have any questions about the show, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. We also have several social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like I said, me and John will be posting on Twitter, so check us out at at Stronger Than Steel Podcast. That's our Twitter handle, and also check out our website at strongerthansteel.nfl.blogspot.com. And finally, I just wanted to pose on you 2 questions for you. One is about the podcast, and one is about football. So I'll start with the football one. Do you want to see Stephon Tuitt play today? We've talked about it in previous podcasts about whether we wanted to see Tuitt come back this quick or not. And it seemed on Twitter that people were 50-50. People wanted him back. People wanted him to fully recover. So tell us in the comments down below what you think if you're on YouTube. But also, the sound quality for this video should be a bunch better than normal. Not just me. I mean, I'm using a professional mic, a streamer's mic, and stuff. So if you guys really enjoy this better, if you guys really like the quality better, we'll try to work it out so that we can have this every week. Instead of me being on the phone, we'll try to find a program that lets us run it. So let us know. But all right, everybody, have a good night and go Steelers. I can't wait for Sunday.